So thanks everyone for coming to the session on RMS Pay. So I thought I'd do a helicopter view of RMS Pay using slides. I can go into RMS in one situation just to illustrate some functionality, but not too much in RMS itself today. So it's a bit of a slideshow, which I don't like doing slideshows, but it's good for today. So we'll start high level, but then we'll get quite deep on a couple of topics. So RMS Pay, what is it? It's a unified payment gateway, or an all-in-one payment gateway built into RMS, and obviously we're supporting it and doing all the commercials as well. So we support lots of different payment methods. So obviously Visa, MasterCard, Amex, but then there's the new payment types of Apple Pay and Google Pay, Alipay, Alipay and Union Pay, which you see on the screen. New payment types coming forward the whole time. So I won't dwell too much on this screen. Then arguably the number one topic for everyone, and certainly for us also at RMS, is about PCI compliance. So you have a responsibility to keep credit card and other personal information of your guest very secure and PCI compliant when it comes to credit card information. And so with RMS Pay, all of the credit card information is stored off RMS. We actually have partnered with Adyen and Adyen for Platforms. Adyen's one of the big fintechs globally. And so with RMS Pay, you actually don't have any credit card information in RMS anymore. And so from a PCI compliance point of view, this is a very important step. And we'll come on to some of these other topics of reducing chargebacks and 3DS, what that means in a moment. So the very basics of RMS Pay is very similar to other payment gateways you might have used, or the Vault in some respects. So you create a credit card token, which tokenizes the guest card through this button. What you get back is the last 4 digits of the card, the token creation date. So you can charge that token or charge that credit card token, cardholder not present, in the receiving area of RMS. So that's the very basics of it. We activate this when RMS Pay is enabled, of course. Then we also have the ability to capture a pre-authorization via an online form, which is what you're looking at the moment, or via an RMS Pay integrated terminal, and I'll come on to those in a minute. We supply fully integrated terminals. Unfortunately, we can't work with other terminals that might be provided by a bank or another payment gateway. But the point of this screen is you can do pre-authorizations via the RMS Pay terminals, and so you can see one here via the credit card pre-authorization screen. Pre-authorizations can be done on the day of check-in, just in case anyone's not aware. Then this is quite interesting. Releasing pre-authorization captures can be done with one click. So you see where I've circled the padlock, and so if you need to release a pre-authorization hold on a guest credit card, the release of the funds is cancelled within 3 or 5 minutes. We've just released this in the last couple of weeks, and we've been doing lots of testing with many clients who've been really great in doing some tests with guests and their own cards. And the pre-auth hold on funds on the cards are coming off within 3 to 5 minutes. So this is much easier than pressing a whole bunch of buttons on a terminal, and obviously for the frontline staff at the hotel, not having to deal with a frustrated guest who can't go shopping if you're holding pre-authorization funds on their card. So it's very exciting that we've got this working very recently. So this is a very nice one. Then there's a couple of reports just to go over. The RMS Pay cash transactions report, with using the RMS Pay terminals and charging tokens in e-commerce mode, everything balances. So there's no end of shift discrepancies, which you probably have today when you're using a bank terminal, for example. So with RMS Pay, you originate the receipt from RMS and you push that transaction amount to the terminal, the guest would tap their phone or card on the terminal to approve the transaction, and then everything's instantly balanced. So there's nothing to, there's no posting of receipts back into RMS where some of the discrepancies take place, and then obviously that can cause lots of time and frustration at the end of the shift where you're trying to balance. So with RMS Pay, it's an instant balance. There's lots of great feedback we're getting where people get to the end of the shift and they're actually saying to the manager, I've got a balance now, but with RMS Pay, that job's done, and the staff can do something else, or they can go home. So we get lots of pleasant feedback from properties who really like this feature, or the front desk staff anyway, who really like this feature. So this is the front desk main report. At the back end, that might be a little bit small, but this is the main report for the finance people or the bookkeepers. And so this is the RMS Pay settlement report. What you see in blue is the amount receipted. And then in green is the amount we pay out to your bank account. And so you can see there's card type of Visa and card variants. So this shows the receipt amount, and then this is showing the RMS platform fee. This example is based on interchange plus pricing. So we're showing the scheme fee, which comes from Visa and MasterCard. Interchange fees come from the banks. There's a transaction fee from RMS and GST for clients in Australia. And so what we do is sum those total fees and deduct it from the receipt. And that's how we calculate the payout amount. So you can run the RMS Pay settlement report per day. It can be sent to the financial contact, and you can obviously run this report for multiple days as well to reconcile what's been receipted for an accounting day with what has hit the bank account. The other main point on this is RMS Pay works on a transaction plus 2 day settlement. So it's not an instant payout. So it's T plus 2 is when the money hits your bank account. So this report is very important to reconcile the revenue coming from RMS, accounting day hitting your bank account. So this is the main report that you'd use, and you can see here transparently we show all the fees, and then obviously in green what is going into your bank account. So this is a important report. The last main area that I just want to talk about briefly is with RMS Pay, we've got chargeback dispute dashboard. So you can manage chargebacks, which unfortunately do happen regularly, all through RMS now. So if you're doing this with a bank, the bank might be sending you a chargeback notice via fax or via letter. I spoke to a customer last week where they get the chargeback dispute sent by letters, and they tend not to open the letters, so they don't even get a chance to defend the chargebacks. So again, there's full transparency of, unfortunately, when chargebacks do happen, and I think they happen to everyone. You can see here, this one's showing undefended chargebacks. So if we just click through, you can see on this one, we've chosen to click the icon which shows the detail of the chargeback, and then you can choose to defend the chargeback by uploading defense material to defend the chargeback. And then the last screen here where I have my mouse says that the chargeback has been defended, so that submits the information back to the card scheme, who obviously deals with the consumer. So there's full autonomy and transparency over managing chargeback disputes. The notifications for chargebacks go into the message center. So if you're using RMS Pay, make sure you're set up to get the notifications through the message center, so you can see the chargebacks happening, and then you can choose to take action accordingly. So coming from chargebacks, it's a nice segue to talk about secure payments. And the distinction between secure payments and unsecure payments is really a cardholder not present transaction, which you can do in RMS by charging a credit card token with the cardholder not present, is not as secure as a secure payment. So I just wanted to spend a a few minutes talking about what we mean about secure payments, and obviously a payment on a terminal, like we see in the diagram, or sorry, see in the picture, is a secure payment, and you're probably all doing that with bank terminals or other payment gateways. So that's pretty obvious, but there's some other things that aren't so obvious. So what are secure payments? So guest-facing payments, which I'll cover today, are Pay by Link, Guest Portal, the RMS Book Now button, certified third-party booking engines that have integrated the RMS Pay form within their third-party booking engine are all secure payments. And what we achieve is 3DS liability shift. So let's just go one step deeper on what that means and show you. So this is Pay by Link, which is in the receiving area of RMS. Let me just show you in RMS now. So with RMS Pay enabled, we have Pay by Link here, so you can email or SMS your guests a Pay by Link. So I'll just do one via email, and you can put an amount in here. So we'll just take $100. We can set a time. So the default time for a Pay by Link is 14 days, the Pay by Link expiry rather. And so we can change this and do a quick set. So Pay by Links have an expiry time. And so we could say to a guest, perhaps if we're a bit suspicious about the guest, I'll send you a Pay by Link and I want you to pay it within 4 hours. And we could add a comment down here to the Pay by Link, which will send this payment request to the guest's email address. So if we process this, actually I haven't added an email to this. If I had correctly added an email to the Pay by Link, it would say, do you want to send this to the guest? And that would send it out to them. And so you can do that via SMS and email. If I go back to the presentation, here's an example of one that I did early in the year. So you can see it's a payment request for $101. And so it's sent to the customer. And so here's when it becomes a customer initiated payment. So in paying it, the bank took over the transaction and sent the guest a authentication code of 724-663. And so when you put this transaction in, we know that the customer's the real customer, and it's their legitimate use of the card. And so this is an example of a good guest with correct authentication from his bank. And so just to recap, the payment request has come from the hotel via the functionality we just looked at. When they go to pay, the bank sends the customer a code, a one-time code. The customer puts that in and makes the payment. And if they have the code, it's a payment that's successful. If they don't have the code, we can be very suspicious about this payment, and we can potentially cancel bookings, which is what I'll come on to next. And just going a bit deeper, this is quite a bit to take in, but just to explain this diagram, and it really links in with that that previous Pay by Link flow, and I'll be quite explicit here. I talk to a lot of properties about fraud, and most of the fraud comes from bad customer bookings from online travel agents. And so this is quite a niche flow, but it's a solution you can put in place with Pay by Link. And so I'll be quite explicit here. So what I'm saying is when a leisure guest books on a paid hotel or a hotel collect rate via an OTA, and we know the two OTAs that are the major ones, what we're suggesting is when the hotel receives the booking to send a Pay by Link via SMS to the guest. So particularly with booking.com, you'll get the mobile phone number of the guest, so you can send them an SMS with a Pay by Link request. If we follow the flow down here where the guest gets the payment link that you sent them, if they pay because it's their bank account and their booking, then payment is finalized and we get the liability shift, and it's a good booking and the payment is good. If we come down to number 4, when the bank sends a secret code to the cardholder, and I'll just read this, the bank card issuer verifies the payment authentication by sending a secret code to the mobile phone number linked to the bank account. Should the booker not get this code because it's not in fact their credit card, then a successful payment using Pay by Link cannot be made. And so really the suggestion here is if you've sent this Pay by Link to a guest who's made a booking on a paid hotel rate via an OTA and they haven't made payment, depending on your occupancy and your own strategy, you can cancel that booking and resell that room to someone else. So the distinction is if it's a happy flow, then you've got payment and you know it's a secure payment. If you don't have payment, then cancel the booking and then you can resell it to someone else, either via your own channels or the OTAs. So it's a little bit to take in here, and if there's any questions, I can try to answer them. It might not be the best forum for that, but I think probably everyone knows about good guests and bad guests from the major OTA channels. This is dealing with the bad guests that do come, unfortunately, from the OTAs. Just to go one step further, this is the back end of Adyen, our partner. What we achieve when we get the liability shift or the customer authenticates the payment is we have challenged the guest or the consumer, and we've achieved the liability shift. So yes, the issuer will bear the financial risk for fraud. I've cut off that it's a Visa transaction at the top of the screen here. You can see the device fingerprint of the guest. So this is all the payment information, and you can see the payment type. So there's all this information on the payment that we have. So this is just explaining how it all works behind the scenes. So the other guest-facing payment types are the RMS guest portal. So you can set up the RMS portal, guest portal to take payments, to do pre-authorizations, and it can do a lot of other things otherwise. So if you're thinking about using the RMS guest portal, then it's a very good strategy, and our training team can help you get started on that if you've got some hesitations on that. I think there's some great webinars that we've got online as well, where you can see David Jones doing previous webinar topics on the guest portal. But if you don't want to set it up by yourself, our training team can help you set up the guest portal. This one shows a third-party booking engine, a new one that is integrated to RMS called Roomstay.io. So you can see here, Roomstay, there's a transaction for $1,438. Then the middle screen is the RMS Pay form. And so the booking goes to payment. On this screen, we achieve the 3DS liability transfer. After this button is submitted, the customer's bank would send them the one-time code. If they enter the one-time code, then the payment can proceed and they'd get the confirmation message like we have here. So you can get secure payments like this from the RMS Book Now button and from third-party booking engines like Roomstay. So what we're doing here is reducing fraud-related disputes. So liability shift with 3DS authentication will protect properties against fraud-related problems. We don't solve all the problems, so properties can still be liable for non-related fraud disputes, such as services not provided. So if you're advertising rooms with pictures that look like one thing, and then the guest turns up and doesn't get that room type or doesn't get that service, you can still have disputes from your guests for those types of things. And obviously, if there's duplicate transactions, then guests or cardholders can dispute those transactions. But certainly, to reduce fraud-related problems, we recommend thinking about secure transactions as opposed to cardholder not present transactions. That's the important distinction. Then just to come full circle, I mentioned at the start of secure transactions, we can supply fully integrated terminals. So we're focusing on two main terminal types. The top one is a mobile terminal, so you can move it around. It runs from Wi-Fi. This one's a little bit more expensive at $50 a month on a 3-year rental agreement. The Verifone 400C Plus is tethered to your front desk and connected to your Ethernet for the internet. It's a cheaper terminal. It's 28 Australian dollars per month on a 3-year rental agreement. These are the fully integrated terminals that we have. It's pretty important to say that a number of our properties use RMS Pay without a terminal. So they just use the e-commerce features that we've talked about, which is the pay by link, charging the guest token, which is a cardholder not present transaction, and then customers or clients of ours that want the full integration and see the benefits of a terminal. Obviously, elect to have these terminals, which do add the front desk efficiency. There's no right or wrong. I think the terminals are great, but a number of clients just get started with RMS Pay without a terminal. A number of them have come back, a week later in some situations and said, no, I do need a terminal. So it's really what's right for your property in terms of your customers expecting a terminal and just how your operations work. So we can provide RMS Pay in an e-commerce only environment, or we can provide terminals as well. So I just wanted to explain that. In terms of the pricing and how it all works, the approach we've taken is to try and get as close to your current merchant service fee arrangement fees as possible if you're using the bank for payments. If you're using a payment gateway, then we do a quick study of your payment gateway details. We try to just get as close to that as possible. So most of the time we just request a bank statement or the payment gateway statement from the property, do a quick study, and then we can make a proposal based on that. The second part is really how you choose to add credit card surcharges or transaction fees to your guest. And the reports I showed you earlier assist you do that. At the moment, you're probably using your bank statement to calculate your surcharge if you do surcharge. A number of properties don't. So it's totally dependent on your strategy, what you want to do with your guests. But we've got the information and data within the RMS Pay reports, so you can calculate this information and make a decision. And with that, I'll open up to any questions.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you, Duncan. That was awesome. You really nailed that. And I loved your framework around the pay by link. That was really clear to understand. So thank you. Lots of questions have been coming through while you've been chatting. So I think in summary, there's a few questions around the cost. So just 1 second. So let me just find one that a couple of people have asked, which actually isn't around cost. I'll get to that, but I thought this was quite interesting. Philip has asked, for online reservations, we are currently using Stripe to take payment. What advantages does RMS Pay have over Stripe in this type of scenario? So would you be able to know more about our competition? I don't know if that's the right.
Yeah. So really the online reservations is, I guess, one part of it. The receiving type of RMS Pay, the pay by link is probably the other advantage that we have. So as I demonstrated, if you're using Stripe for online payments, that's fine. But then RMS Pay has got the other features and obviously the future features that we're going to keep developing. So yeah, Stripe's a good payment gateway, but then what we're doing with RMS Pay is going to run past Stripe pretty quickly, I would say.
Yeah, nice. Okay, I don't know if you can also see the chat. We've got a bit of time to go through some questions, but
yeah, I see the question from Kyle about Pay 2. We've had a discussion with Pay 2. It's not on the current plan. I wouldn't rule out Pay 2, but it's not on the current plan, I would say.
Okay. There's another one here about the customer perspective and the user interface. So Griff, I think that says, how extensively have we tested the functionality for customer perspective? Has the appetite and ease of use been positive? So I know we have recently updated the guest portal and the user interface. Can you speak more to that with RMS Pay, Duncan?
So where's the question? I can't see it, Ash. Where do I see that?
It is, I'll just drop it to you in the chat. 1 second. Or I should repost it and tag you.
Oh, I can see more now. Sorry. Customers with. I don't really understand if Griff means from the consumer or from a property perspective. Properties find RMS Pay very easy to use is the answer to that, and consumers or guests are making payments on pay by links very easily, and we've got properties using RMS Pay in the guest portal. And then, as I said, there's third-party booking engines that have integrated the payment form. So the appetite for RMS Pay is huge, and really it's providing benefits to the front desk, and so there's a clear advantage there than having a fragmented payment solution, so you just save time. But then the other real benefit is reducing fraud. So I speak to a lot of properties that have lost X amount of dollars per day, per month to fraud, and so that adds up. And so those properties are making decisions to mitigate fraud, because there's obviously so much fraud and scams going on. So I guess it just depends on the situation of the property and what's driving them. But the ease of use is not an issue.
I've been to a few events lately, and I've had really positive feedback from customers about RMS Pay and a lot of interest. So I think it is definitely a more secure and reliable solution that is loved by the property and the customers. So I think, do we have time for one more? We've had a question around, it's quite simple actually, how much does the pay by link cost? So a few people have dropped in the chat here around fees and credit card fees and cost, and I know you kind of touched on it on your last slide, so maybe we could recap on that in case there's some more questions around it.
There's no extra costs for a pay by link transaction. So we're not doing anything too tricky or too fancy with our pricing. So there's nothing extra for a pay by link transaction. There's a question here at the bottom. Are there any limitations if you're on RMS Enterprise? RMS Pay is set up on a per property basis, so it's not set up at a group level. Andrew, just to answer your question. I see there's quite a few questions about the. There's another one here from Griff. I assume the RMS Pay terminal will supersede the need for a standard FPOS terminal. So yes, the RMS Pay terminal does supersede your bank FPOS terminal. Some customers keep their bank terminals until they're fully confident with RMS Pay, which is only natural. I hope that answers the question. There's no cost for the 4G backup on the terminal for Sam. Sorry, I'm just skimming through here.
A lot of questions.
So, Tony, does this mean we're not liable to pay the guest back if they dispute the transaction with the bank? Okay, so this is a good question. So I'll just go back to the slides. So this transaction I actually did it. So it was my card, and then I launched a chargeback against the Richmond Heathrow Hotel. So you probably know this already, but to launch a chargeback against a property or any merchant really is super simple. It took me 1 minute on the NAB app and then less than a 3-minute phone call with NAB. And then I waited for NAB to do their thing with Visa. And then I think it was 5 or 6 weeks later, NAB sent me personally as a consumer a letter saying that I didn't win the chargeback as a consumer. So the hotel won the chargeback. And the letter basically said to Duncan, the consumer, please remember your guidelines for using your Visa card, and it went into a whole bunch of information about how consumers need to use their credit cards and device fingerprints correctly. And so the answer to the question is in what we had here, in that having 3DS secure liability shift with 3DS authentication protects the properties against fraud-related disputes. So that's the important distinction. If you can still have chargebacks against non-fraud related disputes, such as if you don't provide the service that you advertised, or if you had a duplicate transaction on the guest. But the important thing is fraud related disputes. And then the other important thing is it needs the guest bank to accept the 3DS flow as well. So the majority of banks do, but there's a small situation where the bank may not have a 3DS flow, but it's over 70%, the 3DS conversion rate. So it's pretty significant. And then if we step back and think about the bank's responsibility with PCI compliance, it'll be even more, the numbers will go higher and higher in terms of the banks and the consumers going through more 3DS transactions.
Yeah. Sounds bulletproof. So we do have a few more questions in here. I think we've got time for one more. If you would like to pick one from the chat, Duncan.
We can do refunds. To do a refund, you just right-click on the transaction and you can refund the amount that's taken. You can't do blind refunds through RMS Pay. To Harry.
To the very top of the chat, we have very first question.
Is the auth within RMS system or banks? Can we take up to a week to release a pre-auth? Is the auth within RMS system or banks? Banks can take a release. So I think I understand the question from Brendan. So the pre-auth release with RMS Pay is releasing the hold on the funds within 3 to 5 minutes. That's what we've tested so far. So we're not using the banks, we're using Adyen. So yeah, I think it's offering superior functionality around releasing pre-auth charges, Brendan.
Yeah. Hopefully that answers Brendan's question. Yeah. So we've definitely got lots of questions in here we haven't been able to answer. But we are planning on sending an email tomorrow, which I will take all your questions and rewrite them and add you as much information as possible for you guys to research and look up, along with some support links, as well as this recording. So we'll have lots of resources for you to look back on and research as well. I hope everyone enjoyed this session. It was a little bit different to what we normally do, but I think it was really impactful and empowering. So thank you, Duncan. Yeah, I look forward to the next one with you soon.
Yeah, and I guess for anyone who wants to get in touch, I think probably just send an email what did we put here? We'll just go via that form. That'll come to me via our CRM. So if you want to get in touch that way, or is it sales at RMS Cloud, Ash? Is that what we use? rmscloud.com.
I'll just drop our support link in, because we have a few ways of reaching support. We actually have a full support page on our website, so they can reach out via here to contact anyone needing support or help on a particular question, log a service request, or just even go to the help center. So yeah, great. Think we'll wrap this up, given we're at the end of the webinar. So again, thank you so much, Duncan, and everyone else for joining. Really appreciate your support, and I hope this was valuable. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Ash. Thanks, everyone, for coming.
Thanks.
Bye.